Chapter 25 Virtual Plantation Marathon. Kurt Olson had been playing Virtual Plantation for 22 straight hours. His Janet Jackson character was pregnant with Master Olson's baby. 4 of the other 7 breeders were now pregnant with Master Olson's babies. Times had gotten tough, and Master Olson was forced to sell all but one male slave into warfare. All the breeders had been married until death or distance did them part. Distance had ended their marriages when their husbands were sold to a Haitian warlord. Master Olson now did his best to fill the voids. Someday, Kurt Olson would catch up on his support payments and he would purchase one of those fancy penile Waldos. In the meantime, he used high-resolution animation, his left hand and his ever-active imagination to consummate each coupling. After each consort, Kurt Olson took a quick, cold shower and changed into semi-clean sweatpants and t-shirt. He would then go first person with his Sergeant Powell character and rip apart the Colombian drug lords. Sergeant Powell was the last adult male slave that Master Olson owned. He was leased to the U.S. Army in what was 1968 game time. 99 years ago, the Civil War had been fought to a brutal stalemate, but President McClellan authorized the Emancipation Revocation, and the battered Union was made whole. Master Olson hoped that the Army would someday promote Sergeant Powell to lieutenant. This would result in a revenue enhancement for the plantation. Once he proved himself as an officer, the Army might declare Colin Powell a free man, and the compensation would put the plantation back in the realm of positive net worth. Kurt Olson knew that he should check on the wizard and the dragon master, but he just could not approach the phone to make the calls. Something might have gone wrong if it did. Kurt Olson's life might as well be over. Virtual Plantation provided a method of engaged avoidance to which Kurt Olson gladly surrendered. Thank goodness Leo Kelly had not called. Kurt Olson briefly scanned slave sites as Sergeant Powell regrouped his squad. "Who would you like to own?" was once more the most popular thread. That was how Virtual Plantation got started. There was a popular website called bringbackslavery.com that had been started by some frustrated social engineers. Regardless of what other content was posted, the hot topic was always the same. Who would you want to own? Virtual Plantation had been influenced, some would say plagiarized, by other time-lapse games. Soon, there were dozens of variations of Virtual Plantation, including the politically correct versions where slavery was not color-coded. But the most popular versions were similar to the classic VP that Kurt Olson and his brother Owen played. In the classic scenarios, most black people were slaves. The exceptions were the black freemen who had gained their liberation and the liberation of their offspring by some act of heroism. Immigrants to the U.S. were slaves or indentured servants. The only exception to this policy were the buy-ins from Europe and Canada. In the classic version, Italians and Irish and Russian Jews were indentured servants for a period of 7 years. In the more egalitarian versions, the player could own Louis Mayer or Joseph Kennedy for the duration of their lives. In his vinyl swivel chair, Kurt Olson scrolled the thread at a leisurely pace. There was an ever-changing list of females people wanted to own. The latest TV star, the newest pop star, but 2 males had dominated over the years, Colin Powell and Barack Obama. Kurt Olson reflected on how nice it had been to own Colin Powell, if only in the cyber world. His reflection was interrupted by his upstairs neighbor rocking the springs of his mattress. For Kurt Olson, it was a reminder of how far he had fallen. He had once owned a 3-bedroom house with a swimming pool. Now he lived in a crowded 1-bedroom unit in a high-crime apartment complex. More demoralizing than the occasional shooting, the petty theft, the malfunctioning wash machines and the warm but never hot dryers, the variable but constant bouquet of marijuana, crack cocaine, cooked meth, dog urine, cat urine, people urine, and mildew, the leaking pipes and cold showers and the fire alarm that screeched so often that the residents disabled them with baseball bats. More demoralizing than all these things was the absence of any reasonable sound buffering. The thin walls and generally shoddy construction reminded Kurt Olson they lived next to 25 Mexicans with 25 ringtones on one side and a cluster of Muslims who prayed loud prayers to Allah 5 times a day on the other side. He was reminded at all hours of the night that his neighbors across the hall were breeders of urban terriers with their distinctive guttural bark and apparent insomnia. But worst of all, Kurt Olson was reminded nightly by the rocking bed upstairs that Leroy Sims enjoyed a very active love life. And love in all its many forms was something Kurt Olson did not have. Kurt Olson would grow despondent that he had no one to love. He was always broke, paying child support and other bills, and nice women wouldn't go anywhere near his apartment complex anyway. He didn't dare get involved with the locals. If they knew what he did for a living, he would probably catch some lead. For that reason, he kept a low profile and rented under the name of Anthony Johnson. How far he had fallen. Kurt Olson leaned back in his office chair and reflected on these matters whenever he was not playing Virtual Plantation or chatting about Virtual Plantation. With a deep sigh, he summarized his day. At least the asshole didn't call. As if on cue, Kurt Olson's cell roared like a lion. For the first time ever, Kurt Olson did not answer it. "I'll tell him I'm sleeping," he said aloud. But after 12 minutes of continuous roaring that could only be partially silenced with blankets, Kurt Olson changed strategy. Maybe if he feigned sleep disorientation, Leo would call back in the morning. "Hello?" Kurt Olson said in a guttural, not yet awake voice. And Leo Kelly yelled at Kurt Olson, and Kurt Olson listened to the onslaught and waited for the interrogative inflection. At the silence that signaled his chance to speak, Kurt Olson turned deliberately mute. Olson! Olson! Hello?" "Yes, sir." "Are you listening to me?" The ruse continued. "Yes, sir. The situation is accessible with the best resources, like you said, sir." "What?" "It's under control with the best situation at our resources, sir." "Olson," Leo Kelly enunciated with pronounced calmness, "have you been drinking?" "No, sir. I was sleeping." And the bravado returned to Leo Kelly's voice. "Well, clear up the cobwebs, Olson. I have some questions for you." And he proceeded to ask about the operation. "The people we have now are better situated for the people than anything we have," Kurt Olson responded, trying to sound groggy. "Damn it, Olson," Leo Kelly intoned. "You go back to sleep, but I'm calling you when I wake up, and I never sleep more than 4 hours, and you better be able to answer some fucking questions, you turd brain pussy. Do you copy?" "Yes, sir." "I'll talk to you soon." Kurt Olson smiled as he closed the cell. He had gotten one over on Leo Kelly. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. He leaned back in his black vinyl chair, and within seconds he was snoring.